Nearly half of Americans over the age of 55 have no retirement savings at all. Zero. Nothing beyond Social Security. Not people who never worked. Not people who never tried. People who spent decades showing up, paying bills, raising families, and somehow arrived at the middle of their lives with nothing set aside. And here's what makes that number even harder to sit with. Most of them didn't see it coming. There was no single moment where they decided not to save. There were just years of months where something else came first. The rent, the car, the unexpected bill, the vacation they really needed. And then one day they looked up and the time had passed. Maybe that's not your story. Maybe you have something saved. But if you're honest with yourself, is it enough? Is it growing fast enough? Do you actually have a plan for how a number in a savings account becomes real financial security? Because here's what I want you to understand by the end of this video. Getting to $300,000 in savings is not easy, but it is the only hard part. Once you get there, something shifts, mathematically and psychologically. And the path from $300,000 to $2 million stops being a question of how hard you work and starts being a question of how long you wait. I'm going to show you exactly why that's true. I'm going to show you what's actually stopping most people from ever getting there. And I'm going to show you the specific things that people who do get there do differently. Not because they earn more, not because they're more disciplined, but because they understand something about how money actually behaves that most people were never taught. Stay with me until the end, because the last part is the one that changes how you think about every financial decision you make from this point forward. Let me paint you a picture that might feel familiar. You make decent money. Not rich, but enough. You pay your bills on time. You're responsible. And yet, at the end of every month, you look at your bank account and wonder where it all went. You didn't do anything crazy. You didn't blow it on something stupid. It just disappeared. Into groceries and gas and subscriptions, and that dinner out that you needed because the week was hard. And the savings you promised yourself you'd start this month got pushed to next month. Again. Or maybe you did save for a while. You were proud of it. You watched the number grow slowly and it felt good. And then the car broke down. Or the medical bill arrived. Or someone needed help. And the account that took 2 years to build got drained in 2 weeks. And starting over felt so discouraging that part of you just stopped trying. Sound familiar? Here's what I need you to hear. According to Bankrate's Emergency Savings Report, only 46% of Americans have enough saved to cover 3 months of expenses. Not 3 years, 3 months. And this isn't just people who are struggling financially. This is happening to people with good jobs, college degrees, and every intention of doing the right thing with their money. So if you've ever felt like you're the only one who can't seem to get this right, you're not even close. But here's the part that really matters. The reason most people can't save consistently has nothing to do with how much they earn. Researchers in behavioral economics have shown this repeatedly. People across almost every income level struggle with the same core problem. And that problem isn't laziness. It isn't carelessness. It's something much more specific, something that's happening inside your brain every single time you make a financial decision. And once you understand what it is, everything changes. So here's what's actually going on. Most people believe that saving money is a willpower problem, that if you just had more discipline, more self-control, more motivation, you'd be able to put money aside every month without fail. And because they believe that, when they fail to save, they blame themselves. They think something is wrong with them. But here's what the research actually shows. Your brain has a built-in bias called present bias. It's a concept from behavioral economics. And in plain language, it means this. Your brain values things that feel good right now at a completely disproportionate level compared to things that will feel good in the future. Even when the future reward is objectively much bigger, the present reward feels more real, more urgent, more important. It's like being offered $10 today or $20 in a month. Rationally, you'd wait for the 20. But emotionally, the 10 is right there. And your brain was literally built to prioritize right there over later. This isn't a character flaw, it's evolution. For most of human history, survival depended on what you could get right now. The future was uncertain. Saving for it didn't make biological sense. The problem is that evolution didn't update when bank accounts were invented. So every time you decide to spend instead of save, your brain isn't failing you. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. The system is working perfectly. It's just working against the wrong goal. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a second thing working against you, and this one is even sneakier. It's called status quo bias. Our deep tendency to keep things exactly as they are, even when changing would clearly make our lives better. If saving isn't already a built-in part of your financial routine, your brain will resist making it one. Not dramatically, not with a big internal argument. Just quietly, consistently, every month. It will find a reason to leave things as they are. This is why most saving advice doesn't work. Telling someone to just be more disciplined or cut your morning coffee is asking them to fight two deeply wired psychological systems at the same time every single day, forever. Nobody wins that fight long term. But here's what does work. And this is where the people who actually reach $300,000 do something fundamentally different. They stop trying to save what's left over at the end of the month. Instead, they save first, automatically, before they ever see the money. And they live on what remains. Behavioral economists call this pay yourself first. And the reason it works isn't motivation or discipline. It's because it removes the decision entirely. Your brain never gets the chance to choose between spending now and saving for later. The money is already gone before present bias has anything to say about it. It sounds almost too simple, but the data backs it up completely. Now let's talk about why $300,000 specifically is the number that changes everything, and more importantly, how it becomes $2 million. The S&P 500 has returned an average of around 10% per year over its entire history. Even using a conservative estimate of 7%, well below that historical average, $300,000 invested and left alone does something remarkable. In year one, it generates roughly $21,000 in returns. That's $1,750 a month appearing in your account without you lifting a finger. But here's where it gets really interesting. In year two, you're not earning 7% on $300,000 anymore. You're earning 7% on $321,000. And the year after that, on $343,000. Each year, the base gets bigger. Each year, the returns get larger. This is compounding, and it is the closest thing to a financial superpower that exists. So let's follow the math all the way through. At 7%, $300,000 doubles roughly every 10 years. After 10 years, you have around $590,000. After 20 years, close to $1.2 million. And after 28 years, without adding a single dollar after that initial $300,000, you're past $2 million. That's the promise in the title of this video. Not a trick, not a fantasy, just math and time and leaving it alone. But, and this the part that stops most people, you have to get to $300,000 first. And that's the part that requires a system. Here's what the research and the math show works. 4 things in order of importance. 1, automate before you think about it. Set up an automatic transfer to a savings or investment account on the same day your paycheck arrives. Not after bills, not after groceries. First, even if it starts at $200 a month, the habit and the system matter more than the amount in the beginning. 2, use tax-advantaged accounts first. A 401k, especially with an employer match, is the closest thing to free money that exists in personal finance. If your employer matches 4% and you're not contributing at least 4%, you are leaving guaranteed returns on the table every single month. 3, increase your savings rate every time your income increases. Not your lifestyle, your savings rate. This is the move that separates people who eventually reach $300,000 from people who always feel like they're almost there. Every raise, every bonus, every extra income, a meaningful portion goes straight to savings before it ever touches your spending. 4, leave it alone. The single most destructive thing people do with investments is panic and pull out during market downturns. Hartford Funds analyzed S&P 500 returns and found that 85% of the index's cumulative total return came from reinvested dividends and compounding over time. Pulling out early doesn't just stop the growth, it erases years of it. And here's your test. Think about your current setup right now. Is saving automatic in your life, or is it something you decide to do or not do every month? If it's a decision, it's vulnerable, because every month present bias is going to show up and make a very convincing argument for why this month is the exception. The people who reach $300,000 aren't the ones who won that argument every month. They're the ones who stopped having it. Here's the thing I really want you to sit with for a moment. Every time you didn't save, every month the number stayed the same, every time the account got drained, every time you told yourself you'd start next month, that wasn't a personal failure. That was a predictable outcome of a brain that was never designed for this. You were trying to win a daily battle against millions of years of evolutionary wiring using nothing but willpower and good intentions. And you blamed yourself every time you lost. That stops today. Because the shift isn't about becoming a different person. It isn't about finally finding the discipline you think you've been missing. It's about understanding that the game has rules, psychological rules, and now you know what they are. Present bias makes the present feel more real than the future. Status quo bias makes inaction feel safer than change. And the answer to both of them isn't to fight harder. It's to build a system that makes the right thing happen automatically, so your brain never gets to vote. That's the real difference between people who reach $300,000 and people who don't. Not income, not intelligence, not sacrifice. System. And here's what changes when you get there. The psychological shift that happens at $300,000 is just as important as the mathematical one. Because when you watch a number that size grow on its own, when you see $21,000 appear in your account in a single year without you doing anything, something changes in how you think about money permanently. It stops feeling like something you chase. It starts feeling like something that works for you. And that feeling, that identity shift, is what makes the next phase almost effortless by comparison. You stop asking, can I afford to save this month? You start asking, how much more can I put in? From this point forward, every automatic transfer you set up isn't a sacrifice. It's a vote for the version of yourself that already has $300,000. Every time you leave your investments alone during a rough market, you're not being passive, you're being strategic. Every raise that goes into savings instead of lifestyle is a decision that your future self will feel in a way your present self can barely imagine. The first $300,000 is the hardest thing you will ever do in personal finance. Not because the math is complicated, it isn't, but because you're doing it entirely on your own before the compounding kicks in, while present bias is whispering in your ear every single month. But once you're there, the math takes over, and the math is very, very patient. So remember this, the first $300,000 is the only hard part. After that, the math works harder than you ever could. But here's something worth knowing. The moment you start building real wealth, the world around you starts behaving differently toward you. In the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how banks, advisors, and financial institutions change their approach the moment they know you have money to manage. There are specific tactics used on people who have already saved, and they're more sophisticated than anything we've talked about so far. That one is important. Don't miss it. If this opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you're there when the next one drops.